So we have Har over here today, our special guest and Annona expert, and he is going to show us how to graft Annonas, in this case an Atemoya, and these are dormant buds, and so that is a typical way of grafting Annonas, and so here's Har.
Actually, it's a typical way of grafting Annonas in late winter or spring. This is not late winter or spring here today, but I had a tree that defoliated recently, and so out of season we do have some dormant graft wood here to use, and that's the only graft wood I have of that kind of Atemoya to use today, so we are doing some of this with dormant graft wood in November. So that's not normal. Before I start with the grafting, I need to show you how to prepare a blade that we use a lot when we are doing grafting with reasonably soft graft wood. Exacto number 2. The handle is wonderful, but the blade is no good for grafting. You will close to 100% for sure injure yourself if you try to use the Exacto blade for grafting. It's at the wrong angle and very sharp point. We don't need all that sharp of a point when we're grafting. We need sharpness more along the sides. And I'm cutting it open carefully because that way I can use what it came in as a holster for storage. There we go. Now cut just a little more off here because that'll make it easier next time. So I do not want this blade. At a grafting class once, I talked about the safety procedures first, including not using this blade. Someone came late to the class and bought one of these at the entrance and immediately cut himself with it. Everyone else had heard that they were not supposed to use that blade. The blade we will use is a Chic injector blade, which was cutting-edge technology, literally, back in the 70s for shaving. Being on the cutting edge only lasted several years, and then someone invented the double or triple bladed disposable razor. And warehouses still have thousands of these sitting around. They're glad to sell them. Sometimes a handle will not close down adequately on the Chic blade because the Chic blade is thinner. Yeah, this handle is extra good, I guess. If you get a handle that doesn't close down on the Chic blade, you break one of the Chic blades in half and stick it in, and then put in the whole one, and that way it will work just fine. The blade comes with oil on it. We don't want to get oil on our grafts. Be careful which way you do this, or you'll slice through your shirt and your finger. The reason this works and this doesn't is that this edge is straight and doesn't have that dangerous point on it, and the metal of the blade is much thinner, and it goes through our cuts better. This blade is good to keep. Obviously, you can use it for cutting cardboard and stuff like that it's designed for. Buddy tape. That is not budding tape, but buddy. Because it's so good, it becomes your buddy. It stretches better than the other tapes on the market, and it breathes better. So you get more grafts surviving, and then when the grafts start to grow, the new growth can usually push right through the buddy tape, which usually does not happen when you use the cheaper tapes. It's easier to apply this before we put the graft on the tree, because we can just roll the graft wood. Now, for much of the covering, we do more than one layer, but right over the bud, we want the buddy tape to be well stretched and only one layer. This buddy tape does not store well in heat. If you leave it an hour or two in a hot vehicle, for instance, the buddy tape will start breaking on you. I'm getting a little bit of that now. Okay, that's more than what I need for one piece anyway. I usually use a piece with 3 buds on it. We're going to do a side cleft, also known as a modified veneer graft. With a non-modified veneer graft, you have the base of the graft wood just sticking out in the air and have to cover it up. With a modified veneer graft, you have a small V at the bottom and it's stuck into the tree. That lives better and it's easier to wrap because the tree is holding it for you. Notice that this is soft, and with this good new blade, it's cutting almost like cutting butter. And since I've cut into the tree and it's weak there, I do need to take some of the weight off this branch. And we don't need that many leaves left on the branch, but we need some. We want the sap to continue moving on by the graft. And we want the roots to still be fed. You don't want to take all the leaves off the rootstock when you graft. In most cases, when that started to fall, I opened my hand. I didn't want to be sliced. One's knee-jerk reaction would be to try to grab it, right? Don't do that. The rubber, one holds near the end and then grabs even closer to the end, and one stretches. One applies it from the graft, going back behind the plant. Back there, one changes hands holding the tip, and one lashes that tip down. As long as I hold the pressure steady, that will not come loose. If I let go on the pressure, it'll come right off. I mean, the pressure won't come right off, the rubber band will. And now here and back, we need to roll the tip of the band. Got it a bit short. I'll back up here. I'll use a second band. So there, I rolled the tip through and did a half knot. No need to do a full knot. So the start of it was held by lashing, and the finish was held by a half knot. I did not wrap over that bud on the side. And that's that. I can spray this on here, but probably won't do much because everything's wrapped. This is copper soap, brand name Cueva. 2 teaspoons in a pint. Okay, so that was a modified side veneer. Also, a modified veneer graft, also known as a side cleft. I'm choosing what size to use where. Most of the graft wood I brought was large. So one does want the graft wood to be a little larger than the rootstock when doing cleft grafts. This is a little too big there at the start, but it gets bigger right here, so I think we'll be good. Oh, I do need to finish wrapping this. Need to wrap this tip again where I cut. That would be a major faux pas, leaving that open. Be almost for sure the death of it. Some people wrap these so prettily that you can hardly see the tape. Looks like glass on there after a few hours. I really don't care if the wrap looks ugly as long as we get it just right over the buds and as long as we seal everything. I had left a little hole there, so I had to put an extra piece on. I cut a little crooked and started going out to the side. So start again. Well, I messed up that cut. Have to start again higher. I had too much buddy tape on there. Notice that I'm cutting right towards me with a very sharp knife. I have never injured myself doing that in many, many years. Why? Because I curve my thumb and my thumb hits the handle, not the blade. And I also curve my wrist. If I slip, my wrist hits my chest. I may get sore if I do that hundreds of times a day, but no cuts. The purpose of the rubber is to apply pressure so that the scion and rootstock wounds, open wounds, are pressed together so that when they heal to each other. Buddy tape does not stick to itself. Does not stick to the tree. It does stick to itself. So the tricky part of starting with buddy tape is to get a base of itself around the tree that the next wraps can stick to. Almost covered that bud twice. Don't want to do that. Okay, so that's a cleft graft. Or to be emphatically precise, a top cleft graft. Usually the word top is left off. And since we don't have much rootstock and I'm trying to use some more of this graft wood from this tree that I got it from, which is not healthy, may not survive. So, and so far it's a one-of-a-kind tree. We need to get some more of it going. I have on 2 or 3 occasions gotten the buds aimed in the wrong direction. In other words, I grafted upside down. That's not a good idea. The graft can certainly live, but then when the graft wood starts to grow, the buds are aimed at the ground. The young new branch quickly is able to figure that out, and then it curves back up. But at that curve, that's a weak point that will almost always break off. So you don't end up with a grafted tree even though your graft lived. There again, this cut will make this branch very weak. So let's get most of the weight off it, including leaves that are in the shade of the other leaves. Not very efficient. To not weaken this one by doing the deeper cut in, I'm going to do a cleft graft. Sorry, keep using the wrong terms. I'm going to do a regular veneer graft. So with that, one cuts just on one side. And can you see the cut on the rootstock? When one's doing a lot of grafts, one doesn't have the rubber bands in a bag. One has an open bowl full of bands. That's more efficient. See how the bottom of the scion is just sticking up there? In this case, it's a very thin one, so it's not sticking up very far. So this shows you 3 different grafting styles with non-leafy scions, which is the way grafts have normally been done for thousands of years, is with non-leafy scions. Of course, people didn't use to have buddy tape or plastic tape, so they used waxed cloth, and a really long time ago they used cow poop mixed with clay. If you put just cow poop on there, it would fall off. If you put just clay on there, it would crack in a day or 2. But with the 2 mixed together, it would stay on there for a month or more while the graft healed. That method was used mainly with grapes, starting in the Levant, Eastern Mediterranean, or Western Middle East, whatever you want to call it.
You're fresh out of cow poop here.
Yep. Grafting used to be considered a family secret, even a religious secret, regarded as a great mystery by everyone else. And of course, when we graft our trees, we need to put a tag on with the name. This one-of-a-kind Atemoya hasn't had a name so far, so I'm making up one right now. Kind of silly, but makes it unique. Red Babumpy. And it is very tasty. Fruited for the first time this summer, and lots of fruit, too many I guess, and then the tree went into decline. Not just because of too many fruits, but because there was severe sunburn after a hurricane like 17 or 18 years ago, and that side of the trunk has rotted and the hollow's gone in all the way to the base. So remains to be seen if the tree will survive another season.
Here it is. 3 different grafts on one seedling tree, and so hopefully they turn out well. We've got 3 chances for success.